When the police arrive at the Pan family home, they find a terrified daughter tied to the banister, begging for help. But they have no idea that the real monster is the one asking to be saved. If you're a fan of this strange, dark, and mysterious, delivered in story format, you've come to the right place. But before we get into it, please invite the like button over for a Super Bowl party. But tell them the wrong dates so they show up a week later to an empty house with a bowl of stale chips. Han and Big Pan are the very definition of the immigrant dream. After arriving from Vietnam, they work relentlessly, sacrificing everything to build a wealthy life in a quiet suburb of Canada. They are strict, traditional, and they demand nothing less than perfection from their daughter, Jennifer. And to them, she is perfection. She is the golden child. A Strata student, a scholarship winner, an accomplished pianist, and a competitive figure skater. Their home reflects this success. It's a large 2-story brick house at the end of a peaceful cul-de-sac in Markham, Ontario. The lawn is perfectly manicured, and expensive cars sit in the wide driveway. It is, by all accounts, a symbol of a life well lived. On the evening of November 8, 2010, the house is quiet. The day has been extraordinarily normal. Han and Bic have just gone upstairs to bed, settling into their master bedroom. Downstairs, Jennifer is supposedly watching TV in the living room. A typical end to a typical day. But then, the quiet shatters. Han is pulled from the edge of sleep by a sound that does not belong. Heavy footsteps are moving through the downstairs level of his home. He hears low, unfamiliar voices. A cold feeling washes over him. It's late, far too late for visitors. Suddenly, his bedroom door swings open. Standing in the doorway are 3 men, their faces grim, guns held firmly in their hands. They move into the room with a chilling purpose and demand money. Han's mind races. As they are forced from their bedroom and into the upstairs hallway, he sees a horrifying sight. Down below, at the bottom of the grand staircase, his daughter Jennifer is tied to the banister with a shoelace, her body trembling. She appears to be a helpless victim. The intruders don't linger. They force Han and his wife Bic down into the dark, cold basement. There is no negotiation, no hesitation. The men raise their guns. A series of deafening cracks echo through the house. They shoot both parents multiple times before turning and fleeing into the night. Bic dies instantly. But by some impossible miracle, Han survives. Despite being shot in the face and shoulder, a primal instinct takes over. He feels the warm, metallic taste of blood filling his mouth, but he crawls. He pulls his broken body up the long flight of stairs from the basement, leaving a dark trail behind him, desperate to find help. Within minutes, the quiet cul-de-sac is flooded with the flashing red and blue lights of police cruisers. Officers swarm the house. Inside, they find Jennifer, still tied to the banister, hysterical and weeping. Paramedics work frantically on her father, who has now slipped into a coma, before rushing him to the hospital. At first, The scene looks like a brutal home invasion gone horribly wrong. But as investigators begin to process the crime scene, things don't add up. Nothing of significant value was taken. The luxury cars are still in the driveway. Cash, left in plain sight, remains untouched. The most unnerving question hangs in the air. Why would professional robbers shoot the parents' but leave the only witness tied up but completely unharmed? The police consider the possibility of a targeted hit, perhaps related to Han's business, or a case of mistaken identity. The first major breakthrough comes when Detective William Getz sits down to interview Jennifer. He asks her to show him exactly how her hands were bound. As she demonstrates, her story begins to unravel. The detective immediately notices that the way she describes being tied up with her hands in front of her would have given her plenty of mobility. She could have easily reached the cell phone in her pocket or even worked the knots loose. Her story just doesn't make sense. Then comes the second, more damning breakthrough. Han Pan wakes from his coma. His memory is fuzzy, but one detail is crystal clear. As the armed men held him and his wife hostage, he saw his daughter, Jennifer. She wasn't terrified. She was walking freely beside the gunmen, speaking to them in a soft, familiar tone. She wasn't a victim. She was their guide. Armed with this testimony, police dig into Jennifer's life, and the entire house of cards comes crashing down. They discover she never won any scholarships. She never graduated high school, let alone university. For nearly a decade, she had been living an elaborate lie, pretending to go to classes while secretly living with her boyfriend. So, here's what actually happened. Jennifer wasn't the golden child. When her parents finally discovered her deception and her secret relationship with a young man named Daniel Wong, they forbade her from ever seeing him again. Faced with the loss of her freedom and a potential disinheritance, Jennifer chose murder. In the end, justice was served. Jennifer Pan, her boyfriend Daniel Wong, and their accomplices were all found guilty of first-degree murder and attempted murder. Each was sentenced to life in prison. It's a tragic end to a story built on deception, but it is also a story of incredible resilience. Han Pan not only survived the unimaginable betrayal but had to find the strength to testify against his own daughter, the person who took his wife and shattered his world. If you want to see more stories about fake lives gone wrong, click this video right here.